Full Wuling AIC 4. We have 12 forges now. 12? Okay. New Wuling base 4. First, before we start, some requirements are, of course, you need to unlock the new map, the test site, and have the mining spots activated. You must at least also be level 14 on your region in Wuling so that the ore yields would look like this. The Jingyu Valley build, as you can see behind my character, is the same as the 6x Shironite. Check this video if you haven't, so you can build it, so that I don't have to build it again in this video to save time. Before we begin, here are layouts to help guide you build or paste the blueprints. Anyways, let's get started. Now, here in main, as usual, we will have the river on the bottom of our screen, just like last time. So, the first thing we'll do is put down fluid pumps. We need a total of 9, 6 on the left, and 3 on the right. So let's do that right now. 6 here on the left. Place them as near as possible to each other. And then the first 4 will be connected to an inlet manifold, the big one. Place it anywhere here. And then these 2 will be connected to the small inlet. There we go. Now, take a pipe converter, make sure it's going in the manifold, place it here, and over here. Now, connect the fluid pumps. You can click here if you want. There you go. That should be good for the left side, and then do the same for this one. There we go. Make sure to power so that it works. 2 Shironite pylons are more than enough. And then for the left side, or rather the right side, sorry, apparently I'm dyslexic, fluid pump, 3 of them right here. And then power with a pylon right there. We will connect that later. We will have a build here for the Shironite. Now, let's move on the top of our screen. Now, right here, I need you to count 5 spaces away from the edge. So over here. This is where we'll start putting our depot bus. So put our depot bus port over here. Make sure to count that it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's good. And then build it all the way to the right. And there we go. The reason why we have the space up here is that this is where we will put our outlets and inlets later, so that the pipes will be more organized, or it's kind of like the back of your PC with the wirings. But let's now proceed with our first build. For the first build, it's going to be the Ferium powder production. So to start, let's put down a depot unloader over here, put Ferium in it, and then copy it 3 times. So you have a total of 4. Now, let's place down a refining unit over here. Turn off the water mode. Copy it. And do it 3 more times. Oops. Let's move that a bit. There we go. Now, take 4 shredding units. Place it over here. 2 protocol stashes right here and right here. 2 spaces in the middle. For a Shironite pylon right there. Make sure to connect all of it. There we go. And now that's for the Ferium powder. Before we proceed to the next one, make sure to place down 5 Shironite pylons over here. That will help us later. Now, to get started on the Coprium build, let's start by placing 2 depot unloaders over here, outputting Coprium on each. Now, as usual, we will have 2 refining units over here and over here with the usual alignment, and then 2 shredding units over here with 1 space below here for the belts. Let's connect the belts. Make sure that you're aligning this properly. Once you do, take a pipe splitter, make sure it's facing downwards, place it on the left of the top refining unit. Now, take a pipe converter, make sure it's facing upwards, and then place it right over here. Do make sure that it's not aligned to the splitter, because you will have problems later if it is aligned. So for now, let's copy this 3 times next to each other. 1, 2, and 3. That should be a total of 8 lines. Now, place a Shironite pylon right here and right here. That should cover most of it. For the protocol stash, place it over here on the first one, and then on the third one, place it over here or here. Either way works. And then the last one should be over here near the 6th one. As long as it can get the 2 of these, it should be fine. Now let's just connect the shredding units. Click here so you can turn it, and then click here. There we go. Do the same for this. Now for the last 2, just that. And now let's work on the pipes. Now for the fluids, take a conduit outlet manifold, the one with the 2 openings, and place it over here. Make sure to take a pipe splitter facing to the right and place it right here on the opening. Now let's connect this like this to the second refining unit, and it should cover the first one. Now do the same for the second set over here, also to the second refining unit. Why is it being stubborn? So click here, and then from here, go here. There we go. It's connected. Now, I want you to take a pipe splitter, align it to this one, make sure it's up here, facing to the right. There we go. So that we can connect this one right here, and then this one goes to the second refining unit as well. And then from here, do the same thing. It should go right here on the second refining unit. Make sure you follow that. That's for the water input. We will connect that later. Now, for the sewage output. Take a conduit inlet and place the first one right over here. There we go. Now, this can intake from 4 maximum. So let's do that. The first one should be here. Make sure it's going all the way up here. Click before you go through the pipe, and then go right over here. Stop here. And then for this one, the first refining unit, make sure it connects like this. The reason why you should not have this over here, the converger, is that it can intake the water, which is bad. I actually got clogged when I was building this on the prototype yesterday. So make sure it's not aligned like this. Anyways, let's continue. Do the same for this one. Continue it up to this part. We will put a converger right here. And then, make sure it goes up here and to the inlet. Connect this one as well, like this. And then, it should look something like this. But for now, let's put the converger right here. Make sure it's facing upwards. Always check if your logistics are doing the right thing and is placed on the right direction. That's half of the refining units with the sewage taken care of. Now for the second one, it's very simple. Just take this one and go straight up. Click here, and then we can place the inlet right here facing downwards. Connect this one here. Do the same for this one. Go straight up, and then connect here. Take this refining unit again, and then connect it here as well. Now, a converger over here, and that should be good for the fluids. For now, let's connect the water into the manifold. There we go. Now, if we've done correctly, if we did the steps correctly, it should start producing Coprium powder, and then the sewage should also be flowing into the inlets. Now let's proceed on the next build, which is the Zircon and Heavy Shironite implemented in the same build. Alright, now let's start with the Zircon parts over here. Let's start by placing down one depot unloader, make sure there's one space here. Output Shironite on this one. There we go. Place an expanded crucible right here, make sure it's aligned. Connect it. And then copy this one. Over here on the right, 3 spaces in between for the first pair, 2 spaces on the next one, and then for the last one, there should be 3 spaces again. Now, for each 3 space gap, like right here, put down a depot unloader, and another one over here. Make sure to output Ferium powder on both. There we go. Now, take a reactor crucible, place it over here, 2 spaces down, rotate once, and make sure it's offset by a bit so that this Ferium powder can connect to it perfectly like this. Now we can just copy this and do the same for over here. There we go. Now place a protocol stash over here facing upwards, connect it like this, and then below it a water treatment unit with the opening on the right so it can intake the sewage later. Do the same one for this one, however the placement is a bit different. Place it over here so it connects like this, and then below it a water treatment unit also facing to the right to take in the sewage of the reactor crucible of this one later. Now let's put down the Shironite pylons right over here, make sure it's aligned here. You can also move it a bit, but this one is the best placement. You can also place it here in the middle somewhere, as long as it powers most of it. And the last one should be right over here. There we go. Now let's deal with the pipes. Now starting on the pipes, let's place down a conduit outlet over here on the top, aligned on the second crucible for the water. Now make sure to place a splitter over here facing downwards and then connect it to each of the first inputs. So something like this, and then again like this. Click again over here, click from here and go here. You can see it's cut off. That's where we will put the splitters, one facing to the left on the left and one facing to the right on the right. Should be simple enough. Now another outlet over here on the bottom for the protocol stash. Place it here facing upwards and then connect it to each of the second inputs like this. Now for this one, make sure you click over here so it can go all the way through on this expanded crucible. Now for the right part here, do it like this. Also click from here and connect it to the fourth one. Now let's put the splitters, one facing upwards, right on the outside of this outlet, and then one facing to the right on the right. Oh wait, no, that's wrong. Make sure it's also facing upwards over here, and this one is also facing upwards. My apologies, I was wrong. It should all be facing upwards. And now once you have that, let's connect both of it. This one takes a sewage input from one of these two, either one works. Now the water will be connected to the first fluid pumps that we've put earlier. There we go. Now let's get back to that build. Now that we've done that, it should be ready for configuration. For the expanded crucibles on the top, make sure to output inert zircon effluent on the orange pipe and zircon effluent on the yellow pipe. Now, to connect the ones here, make sure to take a pipe converter facing to the left, place it over here in the corner of the first expanded crucible, and also here on the third expanded crucible. Place it right there. Connect both yellow pipes over here like this, and then also for this one like this. Now from the converter, connect it to this reactor crucible. Do the same one over here. Now if you don't want to configure one by one, you can remove these three and then just copy the first one. There we go. And it should automatically have the configuration that we did earlier. Now for the top one, make sure to do this. Go all the way here from the first one. And then for each one, just connect it like that. Connect it like this. And like this. Now take convergers and make sure it's facing to the right. Place it right here, over here, and over here. There we go. That should be taking the inner daracon from all four, which we will connect later to the purification unit. But for now, that is the daracon part. The last thing we forgot is the sewage. Make sure to output the sewage, otherwise it will be clogged. There we go. So turns out we forgot to output daracon over here. Just do that real quick. There we go. Don't forget to do that. My bad. That's basically finished on the daracon. Now let's head on to the heavy Shironite on the right side. Now on the far right over here, let's place down 2 depot unloaders, both outputting Shironite. There we go. And then the second one. There we go. Now, place a purification unit over here. Rotate once to make sure that the pipe outputs are on the bottom. Place the Forge of the Sky over here. Make sure you're not covering the input. And then connect the daracon effluent, the inert one, on the purification unit. Make sure that you are using the yellow one. Click here to connect to the Forge of the Sky, because this one will output the daracon effluent and the orange one will output the water. The water we will use later. But for now, let's connect the belts from the Shironite straight down, and then a protocol stash over here with the opening on the left. Connect it and power with a Shironite pylon right over here. And then that should be good for now. Now that we are done with the heavy Shironite, let's go back on the left and start placing down more depot buses. The reason why we have the Shironite pylon is that we need the space for another heavy Shironite build on the top. So let's place down depot buses with this alignment all the way to the right, and then make sure to rotate the last one right like that, and that should be good. Now let's build another heavy Shironite on this spot. Now for the next build of another heavy Shironite, make sure you follow my alignment right here. If you want to copy it exactly, it's one space from this one. So let's go and place down an expanded crucible. Make sure it's facing upwards and it's aligned like this, so that the water from this orange one can go right here. Make sure to click and then go to the crucible. There we go. This will output Shironite, and then connect. Place a water treatment unit over here facing upwards, and then a Forge of the Sky over here also facing upwards. Now for the yellow output, connect it to the Forge of the Sky, and then the orange to the water treatment unit. Place down a protocol stash right over here with the output, or rather the intake, on the top. Connect it like this, and then place 2 depot unloaders, also Shironite again, below the Forge of the Sky. Make sure it's connected, and then output Shironite on both. There we go. Power with the pylon right over here and right over here. That should be good. Now place 3 water treatment units over here. 1, 2, and 3. Take a conduit outlet and place it anywhere over here on the top, but wherever here works. This is for the other sewage. And then take a pipe splitter, place it over here and over here. another one facing to the left over here. These two are facing downwards. Now let's connect it like this. This one will go to both, and then this one will go to the water treatment unit and the expanded crucible right here. Now the only step we need to do is to connect the sewage. Once you've gone over here, make sure to connect it to the one you haven't already. And now let's go back there. Once it starts working, we can configure this. Make sure that the orange pipe is outputting inert zircon effluent, the dark green one. And then the yellow one should be outputting zircon effluent. There we go. And now this should be making heavy Shironite, as you can see. And now let's build SC batteries on the bottom over here. Alright, now for the SC batteries, it's gonna be the same build as last time, so I'm just gonna go over this very quickly. Place down 6 depot unloaders, like this. Zircon on the 6th one. There we go. And then originium, 2 of it. And then a sand leaf over here. And then 2 originium again. Now, once you have this set up, copy the first 5 except the zircon and place it over here on the right side. Now, take shredding units, 5 of them, offset a bit by something like this, place 5. There we go. Copy this, make sure there's 1 space for the zircon belt later, and place it on the right over here. Now for the grinding units, do the same thing, offset by 1, 2 spaces in between, grinding unit again, 1 space in between, and then 2 spaces in between. Take Shironite pylons, place it over here, and then a packaging unit over here. Place a protocol stash next to it with the intake on the bottom, and that should be good. We just need to connect the belts now. There we go. Now, once you've built this, simply just copy it and then paste it next to it. There we go. Now, once you have the batteries factory set up, let's place down thermal banks here on the right. Let's place down 1 depot unloader over here. Make sure it's outputting SC batteries. And then take 2 or 3 thermal banks depending on how much you need, and then place them like this. I need 3, so I'll put 3. Put a splitter right over here facing downwards, and then simply connect all of it. And that should be good. Now, we need sand leaf printers, and we're gonna build it below the first SC battery factory. So, it's gonna be a quick build. First, a planting unit over here, facing to the top, a seed picking unit facing to the bottom, and another planting unit facing to the left. Make sure to turn off the water mode for the planting units. And then, take a protocol stash and place it over here with the opening on the bottom. Connect it together, like so. Power with a pylon right over here. And then, place a sand leaf on the first one, like this. Now, let's copy this 3 times. Let's move it a bit. There we go. Copy it. There we go. You can move it around a bit if you want. Something like this is good. There we go. Make sure to put in the plants. There we go. We need at least 4 of these so you can sustain the whole factory. Now, let's build the 3 Shironite on this part. Now for the 3 Shironite, you can either copy half of the 6 Shironite setup and just place it here, and it should be good to go as long as you fix the pipes. Now, if you want to build it manually, I'll show you how. First, I moved the AIC over here below the thermal banks, and starting from this depot bus, let's count downwards with a Shironite pylon by placing down 7 of them. There we go. Now let's start building here. Now, starting from the Shironite pylon, let's place down a planting unit over here facing to the left, and then a seed picking unit over here facing to the right. Place down 2 shredding units over here facing downwards, a refining unit over here also facing downwards, and then turn off the water mode, and then connect the belts. There we go. Place a Shironite pylon over here, and then a seed picking unit next to it facing downwards. Be mindful of the alignment. Place a planting unit facing upwards, a planting unit facing to the left over here, and then connect the belts as usual. Turn off the water mode, this is for the sand leaf. And then a shredding unit over here aligned like this, facing downwards. Now a seed picking unit over here next to it facing to the left, or rather no, to the right. And then a planting unit over here facing to the left. Connect it like this. This planting unit goes to the shredding unit. Next, 2 shredding units again over here, and a refining unit right over here. Turn off the water mode. Connect the belts again. Put a Shironite pylon right over here and over here. Now, place another seed picking unit with the same alignment as earlier over here. You can see. And then another planting unit over here facing upwards. Another one over here facing to the left. Turn off the water mode for both. This is for the sand leaf again. Connect it like this. There we go. Now, place a shredding unit over here facing downwards and connect the belt like this. Take a seed picking unit facing upwards, place it over here, and a planting unit over here facing downwards. A refining unit over here facing to the right. Connect it like this. There we go. Now let's double check the others. Make sure everything is connected. Nice. Place a shredding unit over here facing downwards. Also another one over here facing downwards. Turn off the water mode for the refining unit. Make sure it goes into the first shredding unit and the second shredding unit. You can connect it in such a way like this, and then make sure to click here for the second one and go downwards. This is so that we can put a Shironite pylon over here, covering everything. Now, let's place down the grinding units. Now for the grinding units, make sure that the first one is aligned to this shredding unit with 2 spaces in between, over here. Now, take another grinding unit, have 1 space next here, and then another one right here, no space. Another one here with 1 space again. Now for the last 2 ones, the first one will be aligned to this shredding unit, the right end of it, still aligned in the same row. Now another one over here with 1 space in between. You can take a look at this to make sure that you have the same alignment as I do. And then let's place down refining units over here. Turn off the water mode. Copy this. Rotate twice, place it over here. Rotate twice, place it over here. Rotate twice again, place it over here, rotate twice, place it here, rotate twice, and place it over here. All of it should be facing the middle per pair. Now, take Forges of the Sky, place it over here, and over here, and over here. It should slot in perfectly. You can also take your AIC later and place it over here if you want, but I'll do that later. For now, let's connect the grinding units and the shredding units together. Each shredding unit that takes one from the refining unit will produce 2 carbon powders each. Make sure to have 2 belts like this. Now this shredding unit will produce 2 carbons as well. This will have 3 powders, so make sure the first one goes here, the second one goes here, and then the third one goes here. For this shredding unit, make sure it connects 2 to this grinding unit and another to this one. Make sure to click here and go over here. Now for this one, do the same, 2 outputs. Now this shredding unit will output sand leaf, so make sure it goes into each of the 3 remaining grinding units. 1, 2, and 3. Make sure it goes all the way here, so you can make this shredding unit go through it. And there we go. The shredding units are now connected. Now for the grinding units, make sure it's connected like this, into the Forge of the Sky. There we go. Place a protocol stash over here, and over here. Let's continue connecting. Do the same thing for each. There we go. Do the same for this one. There we go. Now, for the Shironite pylons, we can place them over here, and somewhere over here. Should be fine. Also over here, or maybe over here is fine as well. Whatever you want, you can adjust it later. And the last one should be fine over here. Now we need fluid. We need water, a total of 3 fluid pumps, the one we set up earlier. The first 2 can go into the 2 Forge of the Skies over here on the bottom right. So let's connect it up here, click here, and then make sure it goes into this one. Take a pipe splitter, place it over here, make sure it connects to this one. Very nice. Now for these 2, have a pipe converter, combine both of them, connect it. There we go. And then make sure it goes here, all the way over here on the top. There we go. Place a pipe splitter right here, connect it, and then go up here. Another pipe splitter over here, connect it, go up here, all the way to this one, click here, and then go down, and then place a pipe splitter over here facing to the right so that we can connect the planting unit in the middle. Now don't forget to place the seeds, otherwise this will not work. For this one, any Wuling plant would do since it's for carbon. For the sand leaf, place sand leaf seeds, of course. There we go. Wuling plant again. And then sand leaf again. Oops, wrong factory. Oh wait, no, we forgot to turn off the water mode for this one. Sand leaf, there we go. And then for the last one, another Wuling plant. There we go. And that should be good for the 3 Shironite. Just double check if I missed anything. it is working properly. Alright, now we can head on to the marker stone base. Now over here in marker stone base, you can see that the acid pool is on our left. Let's start by placing down 4 acid resistant pumps over here, over here, over here, and over here. And then a conduit inlet manifold, the one with the 2 inputs over here. Take a logistics pipe converter, place it over here facing upwards, and another one over here also facing upwards. Connect all of it together, click here, and then connect here. Also this one. There we go. Make sure to power with a pylon over here and over here. Now, place a fluid supply unit all the way over here, and then a conduit outlet in front of it, going into the fluid supply unit. That's a surprise tool that will help us later. Now go over here on the top, and then place down 2 normal fluid pumps, one over here and one over here. You can place them closer to each other, doesn't matter, as long as it's connected to a conduit inlet over here. Make sure to connect both of it, like this. Take a logistics pipe converter facing to the right and place it like that. And remember to power it with a Shironite pylon. Now let's get started with the build. Now that we have set up the fluid pumps, let's start by building the Heatonite parts factory. We can start by placing down a depot bus port over here on the top left, and then 3 depot bus sections going to the right. There we go. And then place down 2 depot unloaders over here on the left. The first one will be outputting Ferium powder. The second one will be outputting Coprium powder. Now copy the Coprium powder unloader 7 times to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then place reactor crucibles over here. Make sure it's aligned like this. Place 4 of them with 1 space in between each other. Place another set of 4, 2 spaces down with the same orientation. Make sure to move it 2 spaces down. Copy it. There we go. It should look something like this. Place another reactor crucible on the bottom here with this alignment. And then a water treatment unit next to it with the opening facing upwards. Place a fitting unit over here facing to the right, and then a protocol stash over here also facing to the right. There we go. Now on the right side over here, place down 2 purification units, rotate it twice, make sure that the pipe outputs are going to the left. Place it next to this reactor crucible, like this. There we go. And now, that should be good for the first part. Alright, now for the next step, let's place down a conduit outlet manifold over here, below the second reactor crucible on the bottom. Make sure there's only 1 space here. And then, take a pipe splitter, place it over here, facing to the left, and place 1 over here, facing to the right. Take more pipe splitters facing upwards this time, going here, over here, over here, and over here. That should do for the acid. And now let's connect it to this one and this splitter first. From this splitter, you go straight here, and then over here. And then for this one, from this splitter, you go straight to this one, and then go straight to this one. It should connect perfectly to all 8 of them. Now for the belts, starting with the Ferium, this goes straight down to this reactor crucible. This one goes here. Every odd number alternate. There we go. Now for these ones, you just go like this. Make sure to click here and then click here, go down. It should be like that. Now you can just copy this one and then place it over here, and over here. There we go. That should be perfect. Now for the pylons, place them over here and over here. Place one also over here and another one over here. Do not place it next to it because we will have the pipe running here. Now let's connect the reactor crucibles together. Orange pipe to orange input like this. Do the same thing for the bottom ones. There we go. Now for the output, oh wait, let's connect the acid first so we can start working on the outputs. There we go. Now we've connected the acid inlet to the acid outlet. Now, once you've done that, we can start working on the purification units over here. We'll do that by outputting Coprium solution on all the orange pipes. There we go. You can also just do the trick we did earlier with the reactor crucibles if you want. There we go. Now once you've done that, make sure to output like this. Click here. Go outside. Actually wait, that's too long. You can click here and then go to this one. And then for this reactor crucible, do the same thing. There we go. Remove this. And all we need to do is to output on the correct pipe, which is the yellow one. Once you do that, it should start purifying it, which we will get heatonite solution and precipitation acid. For this, we only need 2 convergers, one over here, and then one over here. For the yellow pipe, click here, and then go down. For this yellow pipe, go straight. Then for the orange pipe, click here, and then go down. Over here, let's place down a conduit inlet. Make sure there's space, since we will put a splitter over here later. But for now, just connect it here. And then the heatonite solution should go straight into this reactor crucible. This reactor crucible will be connected to the water treatment unit, so it can start outputting sewage. Wait for it. There we go. Now, once we have sewage, output the sewage in the orange pipe, and then connect the reactor crucible to the fitting unit, and then the fitting unit to the stash. Don't forget to output heatonite, because if you don't, nothing will come out. Now, for now, we can put a pipe splitter over here or later. And that's it for the heatonite parts. One thing I also forgot is to connect the conduit inlet. Let's do that right now. Connect this to the fluid supply unit, so we can dump the acid. There we go. Now let's build the Shironite. Now for this Shironite build, since we've built this a million times, and this is just a 1 Shironite, let's speedrun. First, a seed picking unit over here, facing downwards, a planting unit over here, facing upwards, another one over here, facing to the left. Turn off the water mode. Be wary of the alignment. Connect the belts like this. There we go. Now another seed picking unit over here, facing upwards, a planting unit over here, facing downwards, refining unit over here, facing to the right. Turn off the water mode. Whoops, I almost dashed it. And then a shredding unit over here, place 3. There we go. This one connects to the third one over here, and then connects to the first one like this. Make sure to click here when connecting to the third one. This planting unit goes straight in the middle, and then a Shironite pylon goes over here in the middle. Now make sure everything's connected. I can fix this one. There we go. And then a Shironite pylon right over here. Take a grinding unit, place one over here, have 2 spaces in between, and another one over here. Another Shironite pylon right here, and then place a forge to the sky with this alignment, have 1 space down, a refining unit facing to the right over here, facing to the left over here. Turn off water mode for both of them, and then connect this shredding unit, 2 outputs. This shredding unit, 1 over here and 1 to the other grinding unit. This shredding unit also has 2 outputs. And then connect the grinding unit to the refining unit and to the forger sky. Do the same for this side. And then don't forget the protocol stash over here with the opening on the bottom right over there. Now let's put the plants in. Wuling plant for the one with the water. There we go. And then sandleaf seed for this one. There we go. Now take a logistics pipe splitter, place it over here, make sure it's facing upwards so it can connect both here and over here. And then we need a conduit outlet, place it over here, and then connect it right here. Once we have this placed, let's connect that to the water pumps we have on the top. Connect here to over that one. There we go. Now we should have a working Shironite farm. Let's double check if it's correct. Everything seems to be connected. Let's check again later. Now let's proceed on the parts, right here on the bottom. Now before we begin on the gearing units, we're gonna rotate our screen. Now on our new top left, let's place down a depot bus port and 4 depot bus sections going to the right. That's 4. Let's go. Alright, now let's begin with the gearing parts. Now to begin, let's place down depot unloaders. Make sure to have 1 space on the beginning there. That's 4. And that's 8. There we go. Now, let's place down a refining unit over here. And then a fitting unit over here. And then a gearing unit right over here. A protocol stash facing upwards, opening is on the bottom. And then a water treatment over here with the opening on the left. Now, take another gearing unit, place it here on the 3rd and 4th depot unloader. And then place a protocol stash over here, the opening is on the left. And then over here on the 3 last unloaders, put down 3 shredding units in front of it like this. And then a grinding unit. Let's place a grinding unit over here. Going into a refining unit. Hold on. Place 1 over here. Make sure to offset it a bit. And then connect it like that. We'll connect all of it later. And then another refining unit facing to the left over here. Connect it like this. Gearing unit again over here. And then connect it like this. Make sure to turn off the water mode. A protocol stash over here with the opening on the left. So you can connect it like this. There we go. Now for the outputs, it's going to be Coprium on the first one, Shironite on the second one, this one, and then Heatonite part on this one, Heatonite part, Heavy Shironite, there we go, and then Shironite again for this one, and then Sandleaf, and 2 Originiums. Now for the pylons, we can place the pylons over here and over here. Let's connect the pipes like this, and now let's connect the belts. This just goes straight down. Everything's connected there. This Shironite goes straight into the gearing unit. The Heatonite part and the Heavy Shironite go straight in, and then to the protocol stash. This one goes straight into the gearing unit as well. And then these 3 just go down, continue going down, and then we've connected these earlier. Now we can move this pylon a bit so it powers the protocol stash. And that's it for the gearing units. Now do remember that you can turn off the Heatonite parts and the Coprium parts once you have made enough of those. if you need some materials to keep making for fodder, you can keep the Shironite component on, but anything else you can turn off. This one should be reliably running at like an okay capacity without like hindering the other ones, but this is also fine. Now, to activate this one, I almost forgot, we need to put a pipe splitter over here and take water all the way over here. There we go. Now, for the last build, it's just a heavy Shironite bottle. Let's do it over here. Now for the last build, the heavy Shironite bottles, all we really need is to put down 2 depone loaders over here, Ferium on the right one, and then heavy Shironite on the first one, or rather the left. Now once you've done that, place down a refining unit in front of the Ferium one, turn off the water mode, and then have a molding unit over here, offset a bit, facing the left, and then a filling unit over here on the bottom, aligned like this with 1 space. Take a reactor crucible, make sure it's facing left over here. Make sure the pipe outputs are on the bottom here so you can connect it like this. Connect the heavy Shironite to the crucible, the Ferium to the refining unit to the molding unit into the filling unit. Now place a protocol stash over here. Make sure the filling unit is going into that one, and that's mostly it. All we need is to take acid from the splitter that we placed earlier over here and make it go all the way, like over here, and then over here. Now we have a space in the middle here for a pylon. And that's the build. All we need to do now is to output heavy Shironite liquid, and it should start making bottles. There we go. Now if you don't need any more bottles, you can just turn this off as usual, like just click this, or rather this one on the left, sorry. But otherwise, if you don't want to turn off any of these builds, it's fine, I guess. It kind of slows down, but it's not really that big of a deal. But that's mostly it for the builds. Now, here is a final look for the marker stone base. And here is a final look on the main base. It could look a bit different from yours depending on how you aligned your stuff, but it should be mostly producing the same, because you can, for example, this one you can move a lot. These ones you can adjust a bit too. And then you can even put the AIC over here if you wanted, if you like move this pipe somewhere a bit. And then for the outputs, I'm not sure if it's loaded yet, but here's the theoretical output so far. Feel free to pause the video if you want. Now last time people were complaining that the expanded crucibles were getting clogged once it fills up too much. That usually happens when you max out on an item, probably the batteries for me, but eventually it will get clogged up if you don't use the batteries enough. So this one, I added an external crucible to prevent that from happening. Even if you do clog it, it's gonna fix on its own as long as you make sure to sell the heavy Shironite and the Heatonite part. As long as you don't max out on those, it should be fine mostly. Anyways, that will be all. Goodbye. If you find it helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you very much.